I was making music videos from the mid-'80s on for about a period of 10 years. We were young, we were crazy, we did crazy stuff. The days were stupid, the schedules were collapsed, the bands were drunk or off their faces on something or other. It was a wild ride.
Welcome to Filmmaking Framed, your video podcast uncovering the realities of filmmaking. I'm your host, Danion Hughes.
And I'm your host, Tom Dexter.
With us today is Andy Picheta. Andy has won an Emmy for his directing work, been nominated for a Grammy for his producing work in music videos, and currently works as a location manager. Great to have you with us, Andy.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
So, Andy, you've worked across so many different departments and different industries. I wanted to kind of tackle it one at a time. So how does music videos kind of differ from working on film and television?
It's a big difference. I mean, I don't know now. I was making music videos from the mid-'80s on for about a period of 10 years. We were young, we were crazy, we did crazy stuff. The days were stupid, the schedules were collapsed, the bands were drunk or off their faces on something or other. It was a wild ride, but you have to grow up at some point. So I moved from music videos into more long form stuff, and I became specialized in filming bands live on stage. And did that for a while, and then that gravitated me into shooting musical theatre and then a bit of straight theatre. And then I got bored with it all and left the industry and came back into locations. And I've been in locations now for 10 years, and it's great. Compared to producing and compared to directing, compared to dealing with actors and musicians, it's a breeze, I tell you. Piece of piss.
And so could you define the role of a location manager, and then after that, if you could define director and producer?
Well, I think everybody's different. Everybody approaches the work differently. That's one of the great things about our industry, our business, that you can still maintain an individuality in what you do, in how you approach the work. But I've always, when you're making music videos for Tuppence Halfpenny, you need to find your own locations. So I guess I've been a location manager for quite a while. We could never afford to hire a real location manager on most music video budgets. But what's the role of the location? It's to run the locations department. And what does the locations department do? It finds, manages, and protects the locations that the film crew are working in. Our aim is always to create the best working environment for the crew so that the crew can work efficient, not because we like them, but because the more efficient they are, the more efficient is the spend and the more productive is the work. So we try to create a studio environment on location. And that means bringing in a ton of stuff in order to make it all work. So that's one part of what we do, which is to manage the location. But I actually see us fundamentally as the bridge between the general public and the real world and the film crew. Because film crews can be an entitled bunch, and they can piss a lot of people off very quickly. And it's the locations department that minimizes that works at the interface of where the public and the film crew collide. We try to stop them from colliding. We try to keep it kind of a gentle, vaguely sexual rubbing together rather than a collision. But as you know, Danion, because you're in that department, it's the biggest part of our work, is to protect the public, to protect the crew, to protect the location. But before we can do any of that, we have to find it. And that's the best part of location managing for me, is going out and finding it, of getting the script, breaking it down, having the discussions with the director and designer and producer, finding out what's in their heads, going out and finding it. That's the creative aspect. And there are moves now to try and recognize that creativity in the locations department. There are discussions with BAFTA being led by a location, I think she's called Lauren York, who's doing a lot of work in that area to try and get BAFTA to understand that there is a big creative part of being a locations manager, which at the moment isn't recognized. And that lack of recognition sort of shows itself in the credits of any show, doesn't it? Because location manager comes somewhere between accountant and caterer, whereas the costume designer, or who's just gone out and bought a load of second-hand clothes, is right there on the front with the producer and the director.
I think you're right. I think we are that interface and trying to make it so that those two worlds can collide as peacefully as possible. And both in terms of securing the permissions, so if you're doing a road closure, liaising with the council, liaising with the police for that. If you're filming a night scene and the DOP, director of photography, wants all the windows in a building to remain lit.
Or not.
Yeah. Going out and door knocking with all those people and either pleading or paying, depending on the severity of the request.
Yeah, that's a good example. But one would hope that on the tech recce, everybody knew that it was going to be a night shoot. Everybody knew vaguely which way the camera was going to point. And we've had 2 weeks to go and talk to everybody and smile and smooth and charm our way into them, so that we would be on a WhatsApp group with the street, that we could just WhatsApp and say, turn off your lights now, please, and it would happen instantly. Yeah. That's the aim, isn't it? Yeah. But so often, suddenly the camera's going the other way. You think, no, but we never discussed that. How many times have you had that? We have to move all that shit. What do you mean you have to move all that shit? That was the dead area where we've put all the trucks and the catering and the easy ups and the SA holding, and all of that is there. What do you mean move it?
An aspiration I have for each of my jobs that I've fallen short of more times than I'd like to admit is, after the tech recce, for me and all my guys to put through, okay, what's all the notes from all the departments, and then going to each of those departments and going, here is every request we have for any of them. Would you like to add any?
It makes no difference, because they don't know. We hope they know, but we're all standing there on tech recce, 20 of us, pointing, and nobody actually knows.
The truth behind the screen.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, why do you think that they make those last minute requests? Do they realize the magnitude of having to move all those trucks and get all those permissions? Or
nobody cares about the magnitude of the work.
Yeah.
If I look back at my time directing, if there's one criticism I throw at myself, is that I wasn't brutal enough. I always allowed the vision to be tempered by the reality. And, working with what you've got is a great way to live your life, unless you're a director.
Interesting. Go on.
Because you can't work with what you've got. You've got to create what it is that you want to work with as a director. As a director, you've got a plan, you've got a vision of how you've got that film that you're making complete in your head. And you've got to get that out through other people, first onto some film or onto a chip or whatever, second into an edit suite, third you've got to cut it, make it sound right, make it look right, and you've got to get it out there. And from the minute that you start planning how you're going to achieve that, you are being compromised all the time. The budget will compromise you sometimes, but not by no means always. Money is the amount of cash that you've got is important, but it's not the only thing by any means. A limited vision from other people. Before we started rolling, we were talking about a lack of trust in a locations manager. You can have a costume designer or a production designer or an art director or a props guy or a camera operator or a camera assistant or a grip, or somebody is going to fuck up your vision in some way. You've got a camera move in your head and you want to do it. You want to do a really fantastic camera move, and you figured it out and you know how you're going to do it, and they can't do it. Either they can't do it, or you can't afford the kit to do it, or you haven't got the time to do it, or the place you're in doesn't allow you to do it. And so that piece of vision is instantly compromised. And as a director, I found I was fighting compromise all the time and being compromised all the time and giving in. If people were finding something too hard, I would give in. I said, okay, well, let's do it another way. And that's bad directing. The great directors don't give a fuck about you. They don't care that you haven't eaten. They don't care that you haven't slept. They don't care that you're at the end of your tether. They don't care that the money isn't there. They just want what they know they want for the film.
And so often it's a thing of, it sounds strange to say, but when the impossible is insisted upon, it often becomes possible.
Yes.
And it's a non-film related example, and I wish I knew the figures off the top of my head, but I remember Roosevelt insisted on a production of planes to meet American demand in the Second World War, and the target he gave was believed by everyone to be absolutely insane. And not only did they meet their target, they exceeded it many times over, and that was only possible because he went, all of your projections, I don't care, you're going to find a way to do this. Like, you're telling me it's impossible, you will make it possible. And there is a creativity that is unlocked when you're dealing with someone who doesn't want to hear that you're telling them this can't be done. You're like, we'll just figure it out. And you go, okay. And it's not to say you're not trying to figure it out at the start, but it does unlock another level when that compromise isn't possible. And as I say, it feels strange to say that, but it's certainly been my truth, and I see it in history.
I wonder if you could talk a bit about then, for someone who's aspiring to be a director, obviously that's a really great attitude to have. It 100% makes sense from a creative perspective. But if someone's a new director, or they're on a TV show, so maybe there's multiple directors or whatever it is, how can they insist on the impossible but not come across as an awful person and therefore not get more work? What's the balance?
I think, you have to carry the people with you, don't you? You have to lead from the front. This is what I believe. You have to lead from the front and carry people with you and empower people to share your vision. Standing there barking at everybody is no way to get things done, I don't believe. I believe in inclusion and empowerment and trust. Let's come on to that issue of trust we talked about. That very often directors will demand to see dozens and dozens and dozens of a type of location, say a pub. You show them, you take the brief, which is, I don't know, let's say a working man's pub, and you find 3 and you show 3 and they want to see more and they want to see more and they want to see more. And eventually I find myself thinking, well, do they want to see more because they don't know what they want? Do they want to see more because I'm just missing something and not finding the right thing? Or do they want to see more because they believe that the pub they have in their head is out there and the location manager isn't delivering? So, again, we're back to that matter of compromise, aren't we? That by seeing all the pubs in the world, will that director be happy at the end of it that he or she is in one that they want to shoot in? Or will they have been compromised on the way. And I was, and coming back to what got us to this point in the conversation, I was always willing to compromise. Oh, well, he spent a week on it. Fuck it, let's just do it here. But because I can make it work, because I can work with what I've got. And I just think good directors don't work with what they've got. They create what they need.
And never having directed, worked with someone, I'm assuming a big part of that is the ability to introspect into what your vision is, and then gaining the ability to help communicate that to people around you, so that you are...
Yeah, the better communicator you are, the easier it is for everybody to tag along on the journey. But some people are good communicators. Some directors are great at communicating, and some aren't.
I imagine, as you say, about bringing everyone on board with the vision. If the director has the DOP truly believe that shot is the shot that we need, and the grips and the sparks and every department is like, this shot is the shot, it's the money shot, whatever it is, then their desire to get that and not compromise on your behalf will, I guess, be greater.
Yes, but that's again about carrying people with you. But I've been on shoots where the DOP has been really beastly to the director, really horrible. And women directors have it harder than men directors, I think, as well. But I've just seen disgusting behavior from a DOP to a director.
Is that because the DOP feels like they're more experienced or they know better?
I think so. They think they know better. But all they have to do is point the fucking camera in the right direction and get the stop right. And there's somebody else that does everything else after that.
There's a big part of this. It sounds like it's about putting together the right team as well.
Yeah.
So that the team are all on the same page and all delivering.
But very often you don't put the right team together because people aren't available, because you're working, you have to work with somebody new. Yes, it's great. I mean, and in my locations department, I now have a team of people that I like to work with, that I trust. They so far appear to still like to work with me. And it works so very well, because then you just develop a shorthand. But at the same time, you're developing a comfort structure as well, which may not be the right thing to have on a certain job. Maybe then we get to Danion's point about making the impossible possible by pushing the envelope, or even tearing the envelope up. That doesn't happen if you're in a regular team going from job to job, does it? So, yeah, swings and roundabouts, I think we can say safely.
And we've spoken about the directorial side, the location manager side. I'm interested how the producer comes into this, because I've simultaneously seen producers who view it as their job to protect the director's vision. And so, for example, you'd be going to them and they'll be like, we need to film here. And it's like, that location is available, but it is going to cost you this much. And it means you're going to blow past the budget production. And that view of compromise from the financial, the producer doesn't view it as their role. They view it very much as enabling the director. And then I've worked with some producers who view it as that they are the kind of brake. So they exist as that compromising force between finance, logistics, and creative. And so you've spoken about, as a director, you wish you had been more aggressive, feels like the right word, in terms of pursuit of the vision. I'm interested where you would place producers on that kind of being drawn between logistics, money, and creative.
Well, when you watch the credits of a show, there's only one director credit, but there are 38 producer credits. And you kind of quite wonder what they all did. And you've got to figure that out of that 38, probably 36 had a lunch at the right time, or sent the right email to the right person at the right time. So being a producer is so much more ephemeral, isn't it? And everyone is different. I mean, you say, yes, there are producers that protect the director's vision, but on that same project, there'll be producers from the money guys who are protecting the money, not in a line producer way, but in a studio way. There are showrunners who are protecting the creative integrity of the show across all the episodes, where there might be more than one director in the series. So I think the producer's role is to have an overview. But then just coming back to use of resources, even in locations, we can see how there are always choices to be made. We might find the perfect location, but it's a half hour further down the road. So the director will lose an hour's worth of filming in a day to be at that location and not one that's maybe not as good but closer. And that's for them to decide which is more important, whether it's more important to be in exactly in the right place, or whether it's more important to have the maximum filming time possible. And they might well adjust their shot list for the day in order to get to the better location. They might want a full shooting day in the further location, so then they have to trade one of the drone days for that, or trade one of the crane days for that, or trade fewer essays somewhere down the line. And so the director should be doing all that in their head, weighing up their options and weighing up the impact of every decision on their ability to deliver their vision. And I think a producer has much more of an overview to, if they're looking after the director, which is the kind of producing that I was doing, then you are protecting the director. You're protecting the director from the money. You're protecting the director sometimes from the crew, because the crew get lazy and you need to kick them up the arse to get them to do what they're supposed to do. And you're an enabler as a producer, I think, regardless of whether your credit on the screen is for a phone call, a lunch, or 2 years of hard work. You're an enabler, whereas the director is a deliverer. And as a locations manager, I think one is a bit of both.
Yeah, it's interesting because particularly in the crew, I've experienced that there's a belief almost that locations doesn't have a creative side, because as well as finding the locations, we are responsible for the rubbish and the parking.
Yeah, we do the bins.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, I always introduce myself at the production meeting. I say, Andy Picheta, I do the bins. Because we care about the location, because we care about the impact the film crew is having on the general public. It comes back to that important function that we find ourselves doing, which is being the interface. Yeah. So if the rubbish trailer is over full and caterers keep filling it up even when it's spilling out, and it's parked in such a way that you can see it from the street, you're creating a really bad impression of what a film crew is.
Yep.
Because you're just creating mess where there hasn't been mess for the general public, which is why litter picking is so important. One, it keeps marshals busy and stops them yakking in the catering tent, but you're seen to be caring for the location. By the general public, by the crew, by the cast, by the location owners. They can see that you care because you've always got somebody out there with a litter picker picking up litter. And then the location owner comes to you and says, well, this place has never been so clean since you've been here. Thanks, guys.
We'd love to have you back.
Love to have you back. So perception, that kind of perception, I think, is really important. But how do we get here? Yeah, we do the bins because when the camera operator turns up and the sound guy and all the standbys and that, twittering bunch of people that seem to do something for 3 minutes during a filming day, when they all turn up, they see us do the bins. And they see us empty the toilets, and they see us do all that kind of mundane support shit. But they have no idea that we were standing in that field 6 months prior with the director and the designer, figuring out how the day was going to work, what was going to be shot, how it was going to be shot, when it was going to be shot, where it was going to be shot, where the twittering bunch of north-faced up idiots is going to stand, where their monitors are going to go, all of that.
Very minor point. It's true. Almost 90% of crew are North Face wearers, and then there is the rare rebel that wears Patagonia.
Yeah.
Where do you think, you spoke at the start and you sort of brought up again, that entitlement from a crew comes from when they're on a set, and why you have to protect the public and the location from them?
Look, to be fair, nearly everybody I've ever met on any crew I've worked with or on, they are, I love this about our industry. I absolutely love it. There's a bunch of people that intimately and expertly know what they are there to do. You could have a film crew that nobody has ever worked with anybody on it before, and everybody immediately just slips into their role, slips into their position, does their job well, not so well, but that's life. But everybody brings professionalism to what they're doing. So the grip who has to lay some track doesn't care about the newts or rare buttercups or bats or cats or rats or whatever it is that you and the location owner have been discussing for weeks about how you're going to protect that bit of the location, whatever it is, whether it's wallpaper or an orchid or a colony of Patagonian seaweed. I don't know. There's always something which is important to the location, and therefore it's important to me. And therefore I have to ensure that the location is happy about what we're doing in regard to the buttercups. And the grip wants to lay his track right across the buttercups. And you've got to manage that, because that's where the track needs to go. That's where they want the track to get the shot. The reason that we're in this place and the reason I'm being paid by the production company is to get the film made, not to protect the location. But protecting the location is a big part of the job. So then you work around it. Then you say, well, okay, we can do that, but what could we put steel deck down? Because then the footprint will be very narrow and the buttercups will be protected under the steel deck. And then, so there's always a way to achieve what wants to be achieved, but it's our job in locations to make it work in the space that we're in. It's not the grip's job, it's not the camera operator's job, it's not the sound guy's job to dilute their professionalism because of the location.
Yeah.
And that, so if I came across that, oh, film crews are so entitled bastards, I don't think that. I didn't mean it other than flippantly, because everybody has a professionalism that they bring to the production, and all of that has to be respected.
And I think you really hit on something there of it's our role to help channel that. So, for example, we'll put up signs that say you can't go upstairs. And crew will, on the whole, believe that if there isn't a sign telling them they can't do something, that it is okay to do it. But rather than going, why do they assume they can just wander wherever they want? The answer is, make it clear where there are restrictions.
Yeah,
So
you haven't done your location job properly.
Exactly.
Because you haven't given a clear brief to the crew about what the limitations of that place are.
Yeah, and you have some owners they're very protective of the grass, put stakes up, put hazard tape up, put banksmen up if you've got, trucks coming through an 800-year-old gate or...
Yeah.
It
Trashed a
comes
few of
from
those.
that one. No, it's not a one-track mind, but it's like you say, it's each department has got to deliver what they need to do, and so if the location department can take away them thinking about the buttercups, that means they can focus on what they need to do.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Our job is the location. It's in the title.
I think people who've come into the industry have not struggled, but been surprised by not only the level of hierarchy in the film industry, but also the fact that the roles are so specific and delineated. So, that the grip, if you were a location marshal, for example, you wouldn't just go grab the grips equipment and help them carry it, because the grip department would be like, what are you doing? Because
You'd probably break it.
Well, exactly. So you don't know what you're touching. So everyone sort of sticks to their own departments, generally speaking.
It used to be said that, you shouldn't move the grips dolly because they need it. Because the reason the grips push dollies is so they can walk upright, so they say. That's an old film industry joke. I'm sure there are more.
Well, and I can remember a time when I was working for Andy, and it was a TV pilot, and we were helping props at the end of the day carry out some furniture that we'd brought in, that they had brought in. And we're carrying it out, and then one of the one of the sofas in the house got damaged, and they alleged that someone in locations had done it. And we were able to prove that that particular sofa had not been picked up or touched by anyone in the location department. But if we had stepped aside and said, no, all moving of furniture is props, that would have avoided that entire discussion point.
Yeah, there's a reason why these kind of have organically
Yeah, one
formed.
should never touch another department's kit. It's a golden rule, unless they ask you to. If you're on a beach and the camera's moved up the cliff and you've gone up with them and they ask you to carry a lens box, then it's fine, you carry it. But you don't just pick it up and carry it, because if you break it, that's then a bad thing.
Or they might have left it there because they know the next shot they need it for that, but they don't need it for this one. So then you're
So just,
interrupting.
don't touch other people's kit. It's a good rule. But I remember that job you talk about.
Yeah.
And the thing I remember about that job in that very location was, I do remember the sofa going in through the door and getting ripped. But it always happens. There's carelessness at the end of the day when everybody's tired. Everybody wants to get home. People start rushing. People stop thinking. And that's when shit happens. That's when stuff gets damaged. But I do remember earlier in that day, there was a flat screen TV which the DOP didn't like because of reflections or something, belonging to the house. So he picked it up and put it in the hall, screen out, and carried on. And I found that, and I had to publicly humiliate him so that both he and the rest of the crew understood that just like we don't touch the camera department stuff or the grip department stuff, they don't touch anything in the location. If they want something moved in the location, they ask us, and we ask the owner. And we have a chain of approval. And this is especially true when you're working in stately homes with priceless artifacts. You don't touch anything.
Yeah, I worked in one where they had a Napoleonic table. You probably know the location if you worked in it, and it's sat right in the entrance hallway, and they can't move it, so you have to just put protection around it, and then have a marshal basically make sure no one puts it on it.
Rutham,
yeah. Exactly, yeah. So everyone has to. You can't move it, but it's a table, so every crew member wants to put something on the table, so you have to be on it all the time just to make sure no one puts anything on that table. Yeah.
And that goes to a point of, there is, in any industry, a conflict between redundancy and efficiency. And so people will go, the DOP wants that TV moved, I'll just move the TV. Because if I went to find it, if I radioed a location person spoke to a location owner, you are adding steps. But those steps exist for a reason. It's the same with if someone asks you, say, would you like a hand carrying that camera lens? Yeah, that'd be great. And it's in a box and it's relatively protected. You have now taken a step that if something went wrong, you have helped with the agreement that you were there to help. Whereas if you had just picked it up and damaged it, that is a very different scenario.
I think it comes down to respect, doesn't it? We're in a location, we're there by the good grace of the location owner. Yes, it's a commercial arrangement. Yes, we're giving them money, but we are impacting on them much more than they are impacting on us. Unless you're in some very, very touchy, stately home where they can impact on us in equal measure. But we're really fucking up their life for the time that we are in their house. And we're paying them for that. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't respect that we are guests in somebody else's property and behave like guests should behave. You know, you don't wipe your cock on the curtain, do you? Well, I mean, I don't. You just, you know, you show respect to the space you're in. Yes, we've hired it, but we can't trash it. We can't be negligent. We can't be careless. And yet so often film crews are.
A big part, I think you mentioned this earlier about being asked back again. So it's for your sake, so you could go back to that location on another job, but also that other film crews could go back to locations. Because if you burn a bridge, then that location may just refuse filming, which makes your job a lot harder.
Which happens, and then it's a big job of backpedaling somebody from that decision.
Yeah.
But you know that happens, and that can be done with diplomacy and with charm and with guarantees and so on. And I've had that quite often. That I've gone in after, Bollywood are notorious, but they've got better recently. But you know, they used to be just dreadful. And music videos just awful because they kids like I was 30 years ago, just trying to live their passion in a way, and not really thinking about all these kind of quite philosophical points that the older you get, the more you can kind of understand and try and communicate.
I hope that people listening to this take away just that level of importance of a locations department. And I always say that if you can go in and assume that everyone there is trying to do a really good job and wants the best out of it, and you know it's the best way to approach it. And I hope people listen to this. Well, if they're on a set and they're not in the location department, really respect and appreciate what the location department's doing, because they're an integral part of the machine, as is sound and camera and. Exactly.
Yeah, but it's a two-way street. And I touched on this earlier. Locations have to respect the other departments, and they have to understand that the other departments are being just as professional as locations are being, and that will often lead to a clash that needs resolving, and it needs to be resolved just like locations issues with owners are resolved, diplomatically, with charm, with grace, with patience, and with respect. And if you do that, then you'll be fine. But if you tell the grip you can't put the track down there because of the buttercups, the grip rightly is going to say, well, fuck you, that's where it's going. So it's a two-way street. We all need to respect each other.
And building that relationship with them.
Yeah, and respect what each of us contributes to the production.
The example I always think of is on my first ever job on a set, there were a lot of people in the locations department that was like, makeup, just sit around, don't do anything. They just basically sit and look at monitors and occasionally touch up the lead actor with some makeup. And I was like, yeah, but they came in like 3 hours before you did, and they had to make up 200 extras, 200 essays, and then they sit there for a period. And at the end of the day, they've got to strike. I don't know what they say. Strike the actors, take the makeup off, and whatever it is. But the point is that the same as you said for locations where people just come in and they only see you doing the bins. The makeup, for example, have a whole load of work that we don't see, and the same in the case of pretty much every department.
I mean, costume, makeup, and ADs work very long hours. They are there hours before camera call, and they can be there hours after it as well. And the ADs department can get phone calls late into the night because the director's had a brilliant idea. which means another 150 essays need to be got for 11 o'clock the following morning, and it's midnight. That's the kind of shit that they're dealing with all the time. So when they get a bit short with us because we've failed to deliver lunch on time, you got to understand that they've been there since probably 5 a.m.
Yeah. That's a lesson that I definitely wish I had known earlier, and I think it's a really good one to go out, is just an appreciation for how much you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. Well, the wiser you are, the more you understand how little you know.
Socrates.
Is it? Yeah, I guess.
Otherwise,
I thought I just made that up.
Well, you've echoed one of the great philosophers.
I was wondering if we could sort of change tack slightly, and we always try and help encourage new entrants into the industry, and that's what the purpose of the podcast is. So I guess let's go from a locations angle. So what would you say is a good route in for a new person into the locations department?
I think locations are the easiest department to get into. You've always got kids who want to be a producer, want to be a director, without the first clue of what that actually means. Better? You always get kids who want to be a producer, want to be a director, without really having the first idea of what that means. But they think they can start at the top without actually knowing anything. And I am just as guilty of this. When I left film school, I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to be a producer. And that didn't happen for a while. Happened quite quickly, though. I'll always give anybody a chance. And once somebody's had one chance and they're good, then they'll get more. And it's always been true in our industry that the more you do, the more you do. And also that you're only as good as your last job, which I think you're only as good as your last 3 jobs, really is a kinder view. But locations are always looking for marshals to help on busy location days where there's a lot of pedestrian traffic management to do, where you've got to lock off a large, porous area. You need more people there to help you achieve that. Where you've got big SA numbers, you need location marshals to stop them getting lost and going in the wrong direction. And you've got to support those support areas. You've got to crew up a big SA holding, a big SA makeup and costume station, and so on. So we always need more people than we have in the core team. And we are always open to people who want to be location marshals. And if you come into a location team as a marshal and you do a day and you're good and you impress, then you'll be called back for another day. And then you'll be called back for another day. And suddenly you'll have had 2 or 3 weeks work off one film. And then the ALM who initially booked you or initially noticed you to bring you back will bring you on to their next job, and so on and so on.
Which, for people listening, is the assistant location manager.
Yeah.
In.
And then after a while, you'll be offered a job as an ALM because somebody won't be available, and there'll be a kind of a soft ALM job, which would be a good kind of step up for somebody. Or you get a job as the location assistant for the duration of the shoot, so you come into the core locations team at a junior level. So if you're good and if you impress, you'll proceed, and within 2 years you'll be an ALM, and within, how long did it take you? 3 years?
5 months.
5 months. There you go. When you're a genius like Danion, within 5 months you'll be a location manager.
7 for location manager, but yeah. But a huge part of that was you stepped me up to ALM.
Yeah, I did, because I saw that you were good, and the first couple of weeks on the job, it was proven that you were good, and therefore I wanted you on the next job, and so on and so on. And that's how it goes. Now, how do you, I know that what the next question is, I think, how do you impress? How do you show that you're good? You do it by anticipating. Any location marshal who pulls a full bin out of a location bin and throws it on the back of the truck or drops it off to the skip trailer without being asked to do it. Any location marshal who asks if there's a litter picker somewhere and off their own bat goes and picks some litter. Anybody who can show that kind of initiative will immediately get noticed and will, within 7 months, be a location manager, without a doubt. That's all you have to do. All you have to do is show some initiative and be seen to show that initiative.
You're absolutely right, because when you're new, you don't know how to do that many things that are that helpful.
Correct.
But you know how to, strike the dining setup. You know how to do a litter pick. Like, those are things that don't need to be taught. So if you do them without being asked, people will go, I'm going to teach them the next skill they need to be helpful, because once I've taught them that, they will just go and do that for me without me having to prompt them to do it.
Yeah, or to go and find them.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. That sounds silly to say, but you make people teach you if you just keep doing things without being asked that you now know how to do.
Yeah. That, to my mind, is a core thing. And it's simple. Like Danion said, you don't need any specialist knowledge of how a film set works. You don't need any technical knowledge. You don't need any training. You just need to show willing.
And locations is, I agree with Andy, the easiest to get into, and it is a great place to go and work in other departments. But be proactive in locations first, and then you'll make friends. And people will say, so what department do you want to work with? And you say, I really want to be a grip. And you're like, oh, let me go intro you two.
Yeah.
But do the impress in the role you're hired for first. Even if it's like, well, I really want to be a director. How much does changing the bins have to do? It's like, here's how it has to do. You show that you're reliable. You show that you're humble. You show that you're willing to take initiative. And you show that you're willing to support the team. And then people will give you that back.
Yeah. So that's how you get into the business.
It makes me think, though, also being good at communicating. So for bins doesn't really apply to, but for example, it might be that there's a load of easy ups that you think needs striking, and a marshal can just very quickly go to location assistant. These easy ups they're finished with, can I strike them? That is also showing initiative without you just doing stuff that the team isn't aware of, and then suddenly things go wrong.
And I want to highlight that because sometimes those easy ups are no longer being used, but they need to stay up because they exist as a support space. So having the initiative can be, as Andy says, I've done everything I can think to do. What's next to do? Could I do that? And even if the answer will often be, no, we're leaving that up for the moment, you'll impress by the fact that you have seen that it is empty and you're going, can we get ahead? Because the more you can get things done before wrap, the more time we all get with our loved ones.
Yeah, but you don't want to strike the dining tables before lunch, do you? Because then you just have to put them back up.
Eat
again.
on the floor. So that's how you impress in the role. How do you get that first role?
Just ask.
Who?
Well, if you want to be a location marshal, you could join one of the Facebook groups.
Yep.
Which there is a Marshall's Facebook group.
Location Department Juniors.
Yeah, there you go. But just ask. I'll give you an example. Last year I was shooting the second season of Here We Go. It's a beautiful show. Really funny. Great cast. And a fantastic team. Not a single cunt on the crew or in the cast at all. Everybody lovely. Everybody supportive. Everybody respectful and understanding. And it was just a brilliant show to be on. And it's good. Very often, you're on a show which is just a dream to be on and the end result is shit. But and the show that is a nightmare ends up being really good. But here we go, it's this rare beast of being both of those things, good and a dream to work on. And we're shooting at a sailing club, and the sailing club secretary, because it's a charity, his daughter is desperate to get into the film industry, and he says in our negotiations about using it, my daughter's really keen. You know, she's just finishing a film course at college. She would love to be involved in some way. So I go back to the BBC and I say, this is a person who I would like to bring on as an intern for a week or two. Oh, no, we can't do that because of BBC rules. They have to be, I don't know, they have to go through some process before they can do anything at the BBC. So I go back to him and say, look, I can't do it officially through the BBC, but why don't you bring her on set? Because we've hired them as SAs as well, and we've hired their boats so that it's a sailing lake thing happening behind the action. And she can work with you, but I'll ensure that she kind of gets some experience. And she did that, and she really impressed, and she impressed the line producer, who then hired her as the runner on his next job, and she is now happily working in the industry, sadly in production, which is kind of a dead-end space, I think. But there she is. She's off because she showed willing, she impressed, and she impressed again by just mundane stuff, but doing it well. And she now has a career. And I see this happening time after time. And equally, sadly, I've taken on a lot of people without any experience, and so many of them they just seem not to have it. I think before, when I meet them, I think, yeah, sounds great, they're going to do really well, and they don't.
Yeah, I've worked with marshals that have attitude, or they think above their stations. Maybe they just come out of film school and they go and tell the DOP what a good shot might be. I've seen that. I've had ones where they're telling all the public what the confidential show is that we're working on, so therefore, which is not allowed to do. Taking photos that they're not supposed to take. All these sort of things that you're thinking you've got an opportunity here that you could really just take, and like you say, and then you've got a career, but you've just kind of scuppered it for no real gain.
Yeah, but not as queer as folk, as they say up north. Come on, guys, move on. Next. What do you want to talk about next?
What's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten? Doesn't need to be related to film.
Fuck off. That's the best piece of advice that I've ever got.
Go into the context of it?
Oh, it's just happened so many times, Daniel. I wouldn't know where to start. No, what's the best piece of advice I've ever got? Oh, you see, that wasn't on your questions list, was it? And now I don't know that I've ever had any kind of life-changing advice like that.
Then I'll flip it. If you had, friend of a friend's son or daughter wanted to join the industry, and they were like, "What if you could tell them, or if you could send a signal to the universe, and every new joiner in the industry would know one thing, what would it be?"
I think we've covered that. I think we've been there and we've covered that, and it is do the bins without being asked, and that will get you a career.
Yeah,
the film industry is still, it always has been, and I'm so happy that it still is, one of those industries where it's a true meritocracy, so long as you can get your foot through the door.
Yeah.
And people, nepotism really helps to get people through the door, but it won't give you a career.
Yep.
It'll give you a chance, but it won't give, you have to create that career yourself. And so I'm always quite laid back about people who say, "Oh, Andy, thank you. You gave me this job in the film industry. I said, no, I didn't. You did that all by yourself. I just opened the door for you and you took the opportunity, like you did. You could have gone the other way of that other bearded fella that was with you, if you remember, on your first job.
I do remember, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
No names, no pack
names.
drill, as they say.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could maybe explore something a little bit different, in that you sort of said you're only as good as your last job or last 3 jobs, depending on how generous you're being. What are the sort of mistakes that someone could make, and how would you recover from having made a big mistake? You know, because presumably it's not career ending straight away for every single person.
Well, I mean, the truth of it is, how you recover from your mistakes is a true indicator of somebody's character, isn't it? Because everybody fucks up, but it's how you turn that around that is important. And I've spectacularly fucked up so many times.
Can you give an example?
Well, one of my first music videos that I was the producer of, I thought that the film stock came with the camera, and I didn't order any film stock. This was, you see, it's indelibly branded into my memory how bad that was, that the whole crew just sat around for an hour and a half while we waited for the film stock shop in Soho to open and for somebody to bike us some film. That was a bad one. There are a few cringeworthy moments in my life related to my time in the film industry that I didn't recover from well, but yet somehow I'm still here, you know, so couldn't have been all bad.
Switching gears slightly, which is more rock and roll, music videos or film?
Which is more rock and roll? Well, the most rock and roll is rock and roll.
Yeah, because
You can't be doing AC/DC and Metallica in Moscow, in a field, 1 month after the failed counter-revolution.
Oh, wow.
In, when was it, 91, 92? When Boris Yeltsin was standing on the tank. A month later, we were in there with the Monsters of Rock. Wow. That was one of the greatest moments of my life doing that job. It was just unreal. Somebody at Warner Brothers, I think it was the son of the head guy at Warner Brothers, thought that it would be great to give Russian youth a gift following the successful defense of democracy at that time in Russia. It didn't turn out well, did it? But at the time, there was great hope. Yeah. There was hope of a peace dividend. There was hope that Russia would become a democratic, Western-thinking nation. And Warner Brothers wanted to be at the forefront of this. So they thought, we'll give them a rock show. And there was a rock show, I think it's still around maybe, called Monsters of Rock, which had 4 or 5 of the biggest rock bands of the day. That year it was AC/DC, Metallica, Black Crowes, and I can't remember who else, but 4 of those bands signed up to do it. And on 10 days' notice.
Wow.
From the first phone call to rehearsal on site in Russia was, I think, 10 days or 14 days. And it was an American director called Wayne Isham, an American producer called Jeff Tannebring. And we just had the most amazing time. And it was all done at lightning speed. I hired every 16mm camera in the UK from Ari, actually, I think, next door.
Very close to here, yeah.
And they were a bit nervous sending 24 SLRs out there. Not SLRs, SRs, weren't they? Ari SR was the 16mm film camera that the camera of choice, a pallet load of film, every nut, bolt, scaff pole we could think of having, because there was nothing in Russia. All just got loaded onto a truck and driven off. The producers, the director, and we went to Barcelona to see the last Monsters of Rock show, which was there, which was wild. We're standing in the pit, and the crowd are throwing syringes that just injected heroin in at us and at the band. And these syringes are pinging off the scaffolding around us. That was crazy. We didn't sleep. We just drank sangria through the night. Slept on the plane on the next day. The director didn't turn up to the plane.
So did you wait, or did you leave him in Russia?
No, I had to go. I had to go to Russia to get things prepped.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to come with us, but he thought, no, fuck it. So he turned up 2 days later, which was a bit weird. We didn't have any visas. We had letters from the Prime Minister of Russia saying, thank you for coming. We were held up at the airport in Russia for about 5 hours, sitting in this secure area, which had a glass wall between us and the carousels, where all the luggage was going round and round on the carousels. And then in one corner, we could see previous luggage that had never got collected by people, and this kind of crowd of Russian babushkas just going through all the suitcases and taking everything that they felt they would need. And we could see that our suitcases were headed that way, down into the babushka department for a thorough bit of theft. But that didn't happen because we got through in the end. And the Warners chartered an Antonov to take the show from Barcelona to Moscow directly to the airfield where the show was being set up. And the Antonov landed, and they just, being military, they just pushed everything out the back, including the pallet load of film, which we found in the airfield in mud, the bottom row of cans completely unusable. It was a crazy, crazy time. There were no safety barriers, so they used militiamen as the safety barriers, who would wade into the crowd with their batons, and the crowd would fight back. 3 people were killed.
Wow.
5 people were raped. It was just absolute craziness. Monsters of Rock in Moscow. Google it. Wayne Isham, one of the greatest music video directors in the world ever. And it was the greatest honor to work with him. Just an amazing guy.
I'll check it out.
And more rock and roll than rock and roll itself.
I bet that left you, though, prepared for pretty much anything after that point in film TV.
Pretty much. A couple of years later, I was doing a Torval and Dean ice dance show in Wembley, what was then called the Empire Pool. Not sure what it's called now, but it was the concert hall next to the stadium. And I'm doing Torval and Dean, and it's all very nice, and I'm bored shitless. And Bon Jovi are loading into the stadium next door. And I thought I should be doing that, not Torval and Dean. So I rang up the record company, and it just so happened that the band were unhappy because they wanted their Wembley show filmed, and the director they'd chosen said it couldn't be done. And his producer said, we haven't got time to do it. And the record company said, so Andy, I mean, if you could find a way to film this at Wembley Stadium, you can have the gig. So I did.
Oh, that's initiative on a bigger scale. But
That was,
the same principle, yeah.
Just out of boredom, really, because I was just standing there having a snowball fight in July at the back of the back of Wembley Arena, because the Zamboni machines shave the ice for the skaters, and they dump all this snow outside. So it went from that to standing there a week, 10 days after getting the show, trying to figure it out with 20 camera operators and 20 cameras.
Yeah, I think new entrants need to be able to find that courage just to reach out to people. I think there's very easy, especially younger generations. I remember I remember a tutor of mine at the National Film Television School saying that how young people don't just phone up to ask for information or to ask, a question saying, I need this information. Do you have it? Because they would Google it, and if it's not on Google, it wasn't available.
Yeah.
But actually, it's so important to be able to go, hey, I'm really,
Make a phone
Bon
call.
Jovi?
Make a phone call.
Make
Find
a phone
somebody.
call or reach out to someone and take these opportunities, because you never know which opportunity is going to be the one where you saw.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point to highlight, because it's, people just calling you up. That's a pretty good indication that you're going to be able to send them to go, we need a church hall because they've added 100 extras and now our dining space isn't big enough. Go see what's around there. Go see what we can turn around. And if you're already shown the initiative to proactively try and get in, that's a good indication that you're going to be able to
make it on set.
Yeah.
Well, I find that I work much better with somebody that brings solutions rather than problems. So my tip of the day, if you want to get on, bring solutions.
Yeah, 100%.
Amazing. Thanks so much.
I have one last question.
Go on, already?
Yeah.
I'm having a time of my life. Anyway, go on.
How do you see technology changing the film industry?
Well, I've been here before, many times. Way back in the mid-90s, when I ran the live filming division for Propaganda, which was part of Polygram then, there was a music and media conference called In the City, and it was in Manchester, organised and founded by Tony Wilson of the Hacienda Club. Tony was an amazing character. We had this great time in a bar once where we decided we were both the bitches of Polygram in our own ways. And he set up this thing called In the City, which was a 2-day conference about the music industry and music-related media. I think it was 95. And we're talking about this very thing, about how is technology going to change the industry. And there's a panel, and on the panel are these guys, and they're saying that downloads are the next big horizon. And this was at a time where it would take like a day and a half to download an album. And there's guys in the audience, always guys, there's guys in the audience from record companies saying, oh, well, I can download a piece of music by going to the shop and buying a record, mate. And here we are, and record companies don't exist anymore. Bands can't make any money out of their recording music because all the money goes to some geeky nerd in Silicon Valley. And they have to, play live to make money. Everybody has all the music that has ever been recorded available through their phone. And that technology has destroyed one industry and created another. But in what we do, we are fundamentally a part of this huge effort to grab people's leisure time. So if we're working on a TV show, we're not just competing with another TV show. We're competing with a video game, with TikTok, with Facebook, with people going for walks. We're fighting for people's leisure time. We're fighting for attention. And that is always going to be at the core of what we do. And how it's done, of course, is changing, and it's going to change. And AI can probably write a better film script than some writers now. AI in 10 months, years, days, minutes, and some measure of 10 will be able to create virtual locations much better than the ones we can find. And the director will always get their exact vision. We won't have to go out and look at all the pubs in London to show him one, because he will create one using his AI. In fact, the director will be an AI creating what the other AI then creates. So we'll just have a loop of AI things. I don't know what they physically look like. Maybe they're buttercups. I don't know. We have a whole kind of circular AI thing creating something that is going to grab somebody's attention somewhere for 2 minutes, which is going to be the goal. But I do think what's happened over the last 10 years with social media, and especially more recently TikTok, is that it's a real democratization of the visual arts. Now everybody can do it. You don't need all this stuff. You don't need that. You don't need specialists. You just get your phone out and off you go. You get 100,000 views for nothing, for a buttercup.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the drink, but there was a video in America of a guy skateboarding along with relaxing music playing and him drinking the drink, and they got millions of views and they sold out of that brand just from that one video going viral.
I know, and it's incredible. It's such a powerful advertising medium as well, because it's peer-to-peer advertising. It's no longer creative sitting in some posh Soho ad agency being paid 20 million quid a year to sit there and make stuff up. It's peer-to-peer. It's, you see your own reflection of yourself telling you that this is good. And yes, you're right. All the on restaurant reviews now done on TikTok or whatever, those restaurants sell out.
Yeah.
Hotels get booked up. It's a real driver of leisure time.
Yeah.
And it's very democratic, which is a good thing. I think I'm all right. I think, I've got 2 or 3 years. People still want locations. You, Dan, I know, are a incredibly versatile person, and I'm sure you'll create an AI version of yourself that you can monetize brilliantly.
You'll be able to change the bins better than I can.
Where we're going, we don't need any bins.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for
All right,
coming in.
good.
Yeah, thank you for your time.